Askalta, a realm of unimaginable wonders, stood as the majestic home of the Norse gods, a place where life itself seemed to bend in reverence to the deities that resided there. Its beauty was unparalleled, from the ethereal glow of its forests to the shimmering peaks of the distant mountains that surrounded it. In the heart of this divine realm, towering above all, was Valhall, the grand hall of Odin, the Allfather. Valhall was an awe-inspiring structure, its great pillars carved from the bones of ancient beasts, and its roof, covered in golden shields, gleamed brightly under the eternal sky. Warriors who had fallen bravely in battle were granted entrance to Valhall, where they would prepare for Ragnarok, the end of all things. Not far from Valhall, the Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, arched high into the heavens, its shimmering colors vibrant against the sky. This bridge was the connection between Askalta and the other realms, including Midgard, the world of men. It anchored itself in the divine soil of Askalta, a testament to the gods' power, but also a reminder of the precariousness of their position. For though their domain was magnificent, it was far from secure. Askalta stood vulnerable to the many enemies that lurked beyond its borders. Chief among them, the giants and trolls of Jotunheim, a realm as cold and unforgiving as its inhabitants were ruthless. The giants of Jotunheim, ancient and powerful beings, harbored a deep resentment towards the gods of Askalta. Their hatred was born of an age-old rivalry, and they sought every opportunity to destroy the gods and lay waste to their shining realm. The trolls, brutish creatures of incredible strength, shared in this enmity and frequently plotted to tear down the gods' sanctuaries, seeking to plunge the world into chaos. But despite the ever-present danger, Askalta had no great defenses, no walls, no fortifications, to protect its splendor from these monstrous foes. One fateful day, when Thor, the strongest and most formidable of the gods, was away fighting in distant lands, a stranger appeared at the gates of Askalta. Thor, the youngest of the gods, was renowned for his prowess in battle and his tireless defense of both gods and men against the giants. Yet, with him absent, the realm felt a sense of unease. The stranger who now approached was unlike any they had seen before. He rode a powerful gray horse, its hooves thundering against the ground as they drew near. The horse's muscles rippled with strength, and its eyes gleamed with intelligence. The visitor dismounted and made an astonishing offer to the gods, who had gathered to greet him. He was a mason, or so he claimed, and he proposed to build the gods the greatest wall they had ever seen. This wall, he promised, would be higher than any giant could scale, and stronger than any troll could shatter. It would be a fortress around Askalta, a barrier to keep their enemies at bay for all eternity. However, the mason's price for this labor was steep. In return for his services, he demanded the hand of the beautiful goddess Freyja in marriage, as well as the sun and the moon, which lit up the heavens. The gods were taken aback by the boldness of his request. Freyja, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, was beloved by all, her golden hair shimmering like sunlight on the sea. She was the most radiant of the goddesses, and the thought of losing her to this stranger was unthinkable. Worse still, the loss of the sun and the moon would plunge the world into eternal darkness, a fate too terrible to contemplate. The gods balked at his demands, and for a moment, it seemed they would send him away without further discussion. But then, the ever-cunning Loki, trickster god and master of deceit, intervened. He smiled to himself as he hatched a plan. His mind working swiftly as always, Loki suggested that the gods accept the stranger's offer, but with conditions so impossible that he would surely fail. Loki's voice was smooth as honey as he convinced the gods that they could gain most of the wall for free, without ever having to fulfill the builder's outrageous demands. All they needed to do was set strict conditions for the completion of the wall. Freyja, for her part, was furious at the very idea of being used as a bargaining chip, but despite her protests, Odin and the other gods were swayed by Loki's persuasive arguments. They agreed to the trickster's plan and made a deal with the stranger. The builder would have only one winter to finish the wall. If even a single stone was left unfinished by the first day of summer, he would receive no payment. Moreover, the builder was forbidden from accepting help from any other person. He would have to complete the entire project with his own two hands. The gods sealed the deal with solemn oaths, vowing that no harm would come to the mason while he worked in Askalta. The very next morning, the stranger began his work. To the gods' astonishment, he worked at an incredible speed, digging the foundations with such precision and efficiency that even the most skilled craftsmen of the gods marveled at his abilities. By nightfall, he had already made remarkable progress, and as the sun set, he rode off towards the mountains to gather more stones for the wall. The gods watched him ride away, their unease growing. Surely, No mere mortal could work so quickly and with such skill, but it was the following morning when their concerns turned into full-blown anxiety. As agreed, no person was assisting the mason, but to their dismay, they saw that his powerful gray horse, Svadilfari, was hauling the building stones with extraordinary strength. The horse carried such massive loads that the ground beneath its hooves was left with deep trenches, a testament to its unnatural power. Winter descended upon Oskalta, bringing with it biting winds and heavy snow. Yet neither the bitter cold nor the relentless storms could slow the progress of the builder and his horse. Day after day, the wall rose higher and higher, its towering structure seeming to scrape the sky. The gods watched in growing dread as the stranger continued his work with unyielding determination. As winter gave way to spring and the days lengthened, the wall stood nearly complete. Only the great gate, the final piece of the project, remained unfinished. With just 3 days left until the first day of summer, the gods were horrified. The stranger was on the verge of completing his task, and they realized with mounting terror that they were about to lose Freyja, the sun and the moon. Their once proud boast that they could trick the mason now seemed like a distant memory, and they cursed their own foolishness. How had they allowed themselves to make such a reckless wager? In their despair, they remembered Loki and his terrible advice. Suddenly, all eyes turned to the trickster god, and Loki, who had once been so confident, now felt the weight of their wrath. His fellow gods threatened him with a fate worse than death if he did not find a way to prevent the builder from receiving his payment. Loki, sensing that his life was in grave danger, swore he would find a solution. Without wasting another moment, he dashed away, his mind racing as he plotted his next move. That night, as the builder prepared to set off into the mountains to retrieve the final load of stones, a strange and unexpected sight greeted him. A mare, graceful and beautiful beyond words, appeared in the field, her silver coat shimmering under the moonlight. Svadilfari, the mason's loyal steed, took one look at the mare and was instantly entranced. Ignoring his master's commands, Svadilfari broke free of his reins and galloped after the mare, who turned and fled into the woods. The mason, now furious, chased after his horse, but it was no use. The mare led Svadilfari deep into the forest, and the builder was left without his most powerful tool. The next morning, the builder returned to the gods, his anger boiling over. He knew that they had played a trick on him, and his once mild-mannered demeanor vanished as he revealed his true form. He was not a mere mortal mason. He was a mountain giant in disguise, one of the very beings that had long sought the destruction of the gods. His towering form loomed over the gods, and he bellowed in rage, demanding his payment. But this was a grave mistake, for at that very moment, Thor had returned from his battles in distant lands, and the sight of a giant in their midst sent the gods into a fury. The oaths they had sworn to protect the mason were cast aside, for they would never honor such vows to a giant. Thor, his eyes blazing with anger, raised his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, and with a single swing, struck the giant down. The builder's last sight was the crackling energy of Mjolnir descending upon him, and in an instant, he was no more. With the threat vanquished, the gods set the final stones into the wall, sealing their victory. They celebrated their triumph, toasting to their cunning and strength. But one among them was absent from the festivities. Loki, the trickster god, had vanished, and it would be many months before he reappeared. When he did return, however, he was not alone. A beautiful gray foal trotted at his side, a creature unlike any other in the realm. The foal had 8 legs, and though young, its speed was unmatched by any horse in the 9 realms. The foal would grow into the magnificent steed known as Sleipnir, a horse so fast it could outrun the wind itself. Sleipnir became the favored mount of Othin, the Allfather, carrying him across the realms with grace and speed. But the origins of this extraordinary horse were something that Loki preferred not to discuss. Thus, the god's realm was secured, and Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, became even more renowned as the weapon that had struck down the giant and protected Oskalta from destruction. As the story of Oskalta and its gods shows us, even the mightiest can be vulnerable, and sometimes the smallest trick can turn the tide of fate. The god's tale reminds us that wisdom, strength, and unity are essential in facing life's challenges. But it also warns of the consequences when pride overshadows reason. In the end, it was a mix of cunning and courage that saved Oskalta, leaving a legacy that echoes across the realms. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Norse mythology. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the world of myths and legends. Tap that bell icon to stay updated and let us know in the comments what mythological tale you'd like to see next. Until then, remember that even the gods must rely on each other to overcome their greatest trials.